Welcome back to another edition of Monday Morning Cup of Coffee, where I take a sip of coffee and we talk some college baseball in the Northwest. Let's dive in. So this past weekend, we had Northwest Nazarene taking on Chico State, which was my game day of the week from last week. Northwest Nazarene taking on Chico State. Boom. Game one on Friday. Northwest Nazarene 5-2. They get the win. Chico State over Northwest Nazarene the next two for a score of 6-3 on Saturday and 9-4 on Sunday. Chico State ends up taking the series there. Actually, one of my former players, Lucas White, he is on Chico State. Thought I'd mention that. But Northwest Nazarene, good series. Ended up with the L there for the weekend. Montana State Billings took on CSU Pueblo out at Pueblo. Game one, Billings took over 16-13 over Pueblo. Pueblo ended up taking game two 4-0. Billings ended up coming back the next two games 6-4 and 11-7. They ended up taking the series 3 out of 4 games. St. Martin's over Stanislaus State. Well, unfortunately, St. Martin's didn't come out on top this weekend. Stanislaus State 10-1, 10-2, 7-1. They end up sweeping the series. That moves us on to Western Oregon, who unfortunately only won one game out of the 4 this past weekend. Fresno Pacific 18-6, 2-1, 5-0, and then 5-3 at Western Oregon gets the win before leaving Fresno Pacific. Next, we head down to Park Gilbert down here in my neck of the woods. Park Gilbert wins the first 2 games 8-7 and 9-8 over Eastern Oregon. Eastern Oregon ends up taking the next 2, 7-4 and 16-11 for a nice little comfy split for Eastern Oregon. Eastern Oregon coming down here and getting a split's not bad. So congrats to them and keep that momentum moving forward. Next up, we have Simpson out of California taking on Bushnell. Just straight up I-5 there. Bushnell 7-4 game 1. Simpson game 2 5-2, and then Bushnell took the next 2. Both of them came down to 7 innings, 12-0 Bushnell, and then 10-1 Bushnell as well. And then Corban actually came down here to play Arizona Christian. They're ranked top 10 in the nation for NAI. They're actually ranked at number 10. Arizona Christian ended up taking all 3 games. Ended up being a better series than I had anticipated with Corban. 5-4 Arizona Christian game 1, 16-3. That one got out of hand a little bit. And then 8-5. And we did actually have our player of the week. We had Ryan Clay, who ended up having 2 home runs this past weekend. He ended up with 5 hits, and this monster bash right here, he ended up getting ejected from this one, which I didn't agree with. Just kind of looking at this, this is no different than normal college baseball celebrations. Got to be honest, I'm not the biggest fan of celebrations. That's not really, my way of doing things. But I mean, this is 2025, and in all honesty, this was not egregious, like not even a little bit. Celebrated with his team, looked into his dugout, gave him the I'm strong. I don't see a reason that this was not ejected worthy, but that's why we're going to give him the player of the week. Congrats to that young man. In our final series, we have Central Washington taking on College of Idaho, where they did have to push back their games because of snow out in Idaho. Kudos to the boys for getting out in the field and making it get done. I know there's no crew to get that done, so I know for a fact it was the players that helped out and made sure the field was playable. Central Washington did drop 3 out of 4. Game 1 by a score of 13-2. College of Idaho takes it. They won game 2 7-3. Game 3, College of Idaho comes back on top 7-0 with the W, and finishing off the series 14-10 College of Idaho. Thank you for tuning in to this week's Monday Morning Cup of Coffee. I'm your host, Gavin Hite with Up West Sports. Just remember, life's too short. Gas up your boys.